management action plans. These are the action plans that the bank management will develop to make sure that the investigation or the result of the investigation by the panel are actually taken care of. And so this is in a nutshell what we can say about the importance of CSOs in our work. And we will be happy to provide more information during the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bambara. This presentation on the bank's independent review mechanism was more than necessary, as this is a mechanism all civil society organizations must be aware of. Before we move on to the next presentation, I'd just like to give a quick reminder, because we are seeing various messages in the chat. Interpretation is available, in both French and English. There's a little globe icon at the bottom of your screen, and you can click on it and just select the language. Juste au cas où vous n'arrivez pas à avoir l'interprétation, il y a une petite icône en fait, globe, en bas de votre écran. Vous cliquez dessus et vous choisissez l'anglais ou français. Voilà, merci beaucoup. So we will now move on to Mr. Luther Yameogo's presentation, who will be presenting the bank's work in terms of civil society engagement, and more precisely, the work of the Civil Society and Community Engagement Division. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Najat.
Can you hear me very well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I will be quickly presenting what is civil society in the perception of the bank, why civil society is important, engaging with civil society is important, before I run to present how the bank engages with civil society in its operations and projects through consultation and dialogue, mainstreaming projects, and strategic partnership. But first of all, civil society includes humanitarian organizations, social movements, women and youth organizations, farmers organizations, human rights organizations, policy think tanks, community-based organizations. So civil society is you, civil society is all of us, because you are talking, you are the voice of the African people. And at the bank, we think that civil society engagement is important. Before, with the voice of civil society, there is ownership on bank's projects. Engaging with civil society helps to identify the gaps and challenges when designing, implementing, and monitoring projects. Engaging with civil society enhances better targeting of intended beneficiaries. And engaging with civil society is also enhancing the ownership of the projects, as I said before, and helps manage the risk of failure. Engaging with civil society also empowers citizens who are the primary target of operations and improves the quality of programming and project delivery. Engaging with civil society improves results and impacts. And as the president of the bank stated yesterday, we are a people-centered organization, and we have to work on a result-based framework. So with you, we are promoting inclusion and participation, ownership, transparency, and accountability to maximize the impact of the programs and the projects the banks is supporting in the various countries. The civil society and community engagement at the bank has the main responsibility to coordinate, to monitor, and report on bank-wide engagement with civil society to ensure that civil society engagement is an integral part of the bank procedures and policies. The division is managed by Mrs. Zeneb Toure and with staff at the headquarters to support the delivery of the high five at the corporate level, and staff in the regional hubs to support task team in accelerating civil society engagement at the country and project level to achieve the bank's high five. I have my colleagues, Jerry Kinyoho, sitting in Pretoria, Edward Sobe, sitting here in Abidjan, who can also complement this presentation during the Q&A session with examples. But now, with regard to the bank's engagement with civil society in operations and projects, the civil society and community engagement division, since its creation in 2017 in the bank, is working to engage civil society for enhancing ownership, transparency, and accountability. And the first entry point is dialogue and consultation. The Bank Civil Society Committee is a collaborative committee serving as an advisory body to the bank and holding the bank accountable for the implementation of its engagement with civil society. This committee is made up of 11 CSO representatives and 11 representatives from the bank, from key organizational units of the bank. And the membership has just been renewed for a new cycle, 2020-2022 in October, and held its first statutory meeting virtually on November 24th, meaning beginning of this week. As my colleague Florence and stated, the bank's different units are engaging with this committee to advise the bank and help make sure that the constituencies and the African civil society, the African population are involved in the bank's operation. Another dialogue and consultation mechanism is the civil society forum, the one we are holding now. The forum has become an accelerator of partnership, a networking event for the CSO committee, and this annual forum aims to be branded as the foremost civil society event on the continent. So you are the one making the forum, you are the one who have the flow, you are the one addressing civil society needs and pushing for them to be in the development agenda. We have in the division the mandate of working to mainstream civil society engagement in banks operation. The bank sees in this area developing tools and guidelines for mainstreaming civil society engagement in country strategy papers and guidelines for mainstreaming civil society engagement in projects, including private sector projects that will create shared value for communities. Country strategic papers and regional integration strategy papers consultations with civil society were organized in some of the bank's regional member countries like Gambia, Lesotho, Liberia, Malawi, Mali, Mauritius, Mozambique, Namibia, Senegal, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe, to give you just some few examples, with, as a result, that most of the bank country strategy papers have inputs from civil society that reflects perspective of the citizens they represent. And my colleague Frederic has just presented how the bank is involving civil society in handling complaints raised by civil society organizations on bank-funded projects, but also other complaints we are receiving here at the division. And the division, as a trusted point of reference, plays this key role of coordinating and shaping the bank's responses to the complaint raised by CSOs on bank-funded projects. But my colleague has already developed on this. We are also setting up and implementing an outreach and communication plan to ensure participation in operations and projects. And we have, for instance, the Voices of Citizens in Africa newsletter, which serve as a platform for civil society organizations who share their experiences, initiatives, and news from the field on the one side, and for the bank actors who can present their work in terms of civil society engagement on the other side. We have, as another dialogue platform, the Open Days with Civil Society. Civil society open days are organized in regional member countries to engage and share information on the bank's portfolio and obtain feedback on existing bank-funded projects from civil society organizations as key stakeholders in the achievement of development objectives of the country. Civil society open days have been organized, for instance, in Burkina Faso, Kingdom of Eswatini, Mozambique, Liberia, Mauritius, Tunisia, Cameroon, and South Africa. And these open days contributed to strengthen bank relations with civil society in these countries and given citizens voice in the policy dialogue between the bank and the country. At the level of partnership, I will just mention three of them, and we can develop during the Q&A if you are interested. We have, for instance, a new partnership with the Graça Machel Trust. We have a partnership with the International Committee of the Red Cross, working on fragility, states in transition, and we have been engaging with the International Committee of the Red Cross during this COVID-19 pandemic. We have a partnership with the Pan-African Farmers Organization to support inclusive agribusiness development to capture new market opportunities for farmers to move up the value chain and increase their revenues. I will end my presentation with the various initiatives in the context of COVID-19, which open windows of opportunities for further engagement, clearly putting at the forefront civil society as caregivers and main actors for the response and the reconstruction after COVID-19. Several initiatives aiming at contributing to the fight against COVID-19 have therefore been put in place by the bank with a civil society engagement perspective. The overall goal was to shed light on the key role civil society organizations play in times of crisis and how they foster inclusive development in the continent, especially, again, the backdrop of this unprecedented emergency humanitarian crisis. COVID-19 has brought to the fore the critical role of civil society organizations and their ability to enhance interventions, impact, as well as reinforce accountability and resilience. Civil society has expertise in addressing social needs, accelerate positive economic impact of interventions and measures that government, development partner, and private sector are taking to address the pandemic. I've mentioned that we have developed guidelines and tools. It was the same during the COVID-19 crisis. We have developed specific guidelines for how to engage with civil society during this crisis. Finally, we are now handling 4 operational processes. We have launched an economic sector work on civil society engagement and inclusive growth in Africa to further enhance the business case for civil society engagement in policy dialogue. As a second ongoing initiative, we are doing a mapping of existing trust funds that CSOs can access in the bank in order to unlock more financing to support CSO-led initiatives that serve the same development objectives. We are also developing a toolkit for mainstreaming civil society engagement in operations in order to systematize civil society engagement across operations. And the creation of the civil society, we are working on the creation of a web-based which will highlight the role of the civil society via the current database we have. We have 4,000 civil society registered in the database, but in the coming weeks, we will have it as a web-based platform to facilitate further interactions. And it's true that a house is built by the foundation and not the roof. That we can say then that the partnership between the bank and civil society is on march, that the foundations are in place, and that together we can build a people-centered development to make sure that civil society organizations are a key component of the bank's operations project, and they are involved from the identification to the preparation of the project, the appraisal, the approval, the implementation, and the completion of this project. The reconstruction of Africa will only succeed with the voice and involvement of the populations represented by civil society. Thank you very much, Najad, and we stand ready for the Q&A for this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luther. Thank you to the three of you. I'm sure that these presentations have generated many questions from our audience. So we will now move on to the questions and answer session to address any interrogation participants may have.
The first question we received is from, I believe, a civil society organization who wants to know if the bank has a capacity building program. Sorry, there's an echo. So this question is addressed to my colleagues from the Civil Society and Community Engagement Division.
Did you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we can hear you. Remove your headset. Najat,
We have
Our public network connected. And if you allow, dear moderator, Edouard will take this question.
Sorry, I'll just repeat the question because I'm not sure everyone heard me. I think there was a technical problem. I was saying that a CSO sent a question asking if the bank has a capacity building program for civil society organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Najat. Thanks, Luther, for the presentation and other presentations on how civil society is involved in bank programs, in bank policies and operations. And thanks very much to the organization that has asked that question. Effectively, when Luther was doing his presentation, he did mention that one of our operational pillars is capacity building. Capacity building on civil society engagement. Of course, during the different consultations that the bank has organized since the creation of the division, and even prior to the creation of the division, the issue of building capacity for civil society engagement came out clearly and is highlighted in the different reports of the consultation and awareness sessions that have been held both within the bank and with civil society organizations. And capacity building will be happening at two levels. First, at the level of the bank. The strategy we are designing seeks to ensure that the capacity of the staff of the bank, the different departments, the regional officers, the country officers, that their capacity on how, when, and who to engage in our operations, in our projects, is clearly defined. That is, staff should know whom to engage, how to engage civil society, and when to do so. Secondly, capacity building is also at the level of civil society organizations. For effective engagement, civil society has to be better informed about how the bank does its work, how the bank plans its work, how the bank implements its projects, and the role civil society can play. Of course, building capacity will enable civil society to not only understand its role, but for civil society to be able to effectively contribute in determining what pillars, for example, will constitute a country strategy papers. We are here at the level of the country. What pillars will constitute a regional strategy paper? We also have regional integration strategy papers. How civil society can effectively play its role as watchdog in ensuring transparency and accountability. These are the different issues being highlighted in our capacity building program. And of course, the bank is currently, since 2019, we embarked on a process. The process began with a design thinking workshop in which civil society organizations were represented. This workshop outlined a roadmap for the design of a capacity building program for engaging civil society in bank policies, operations, and programs. And the workshop, in its recommendations, insisted on a needs assessment as the first milestone in that roadmap. And we just completed a needs assessment of capacity gaps and needs within the bank and amongst civil society. The survey is a report is being finalized and analyzed. And on the basis of that analysis, we shall then design a civil society engagement capacity building program, which will be available and will enable the bank better build capacity. Of course, you remember yesterday, the president of the bank highlighted the issue of strengthening capacity of civil society, but it shall be capacity on civil society engagement also, so as to better prepare colleagues in the bank to effectively engage civil society through the building of their capacity, but for civil society also to engage with the bank through the strengthening of their own capacity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Edward, for this very clear and exhaustive response. The next question is from Mrs. Freda Dennis. Civil society organization asks if the bank supports open government processes in countries. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and well appreciated. Let me say that the bank is working with open government partnership in terms of technical support to countries and also to the OGP itself. As you know, some of these things are signed on, and it requires high-level policy engagement and advocacy to ensure that these things are properly implemented. So presently this year, we have engaged the Open Government Partnership, have shared their work program. We're supposed to have a sort of plan for policy engagement in October, but couldn't come on, but it will come on by all means, where we would then look at their work program from for the next 5 years, and then earmark certain activities that we could work collaboratively on. So, and then also we are looking at what are the areas of financial support. As you know, the bank has a governance department that provides financial support to countries on financial and economic governance issues, which involves integrity and anti-corruption. So it's also, the governance team are also doing that and engaging the countries so that those who have signed on to this partnership agreement are able to implement the action plans that they have put in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope this is all clear. I'll still invite participants to send any questions or any clarification they may need via the chat. The third question we received is for Mr. Bombara. The question is the following: how can civil society organizations contribute to the independent review mechanism? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for this question. First of all, as I said, civil society organization can contribute to the work of the independent review mechanisms by supporting communities who want to submit a request, a complaint, and also working to make the communities know that there is a mechanism, there is a recourse mechanism within the bank that deals with issues, complaints, requests from communities who are affected by project funded by the bank. If, for example, in a given community, if the bank finances a project in a country and you are aware that this project has negatively impacted the communities, if the communities do not know about the existence of the mechanism, they will not be able to request the bank to comply with its own procedures and policies. So the civil society can play a key role in sensitizing or providing information to communities, first of all, about the existence of the mechanism. This recourse mechanism is for the communities. It's for the accountability of the bank. So it's important for civil society to play a role in this regard. Secondly, with regard to the submission of complaints or requests, civil society can also help communities. Most of the time, there are communities who may not be able to, they not know how to submit a complaint. And civil society organization can submit a complaint on behalf of the affected communities. So they are actually playing a key role, an intermediary role between the bank mechanism and the communities who may be affected by project funded by the bank. I don't know if I answered this question. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was very clear. We'll move on to the next question, and this will be for our Civil Society and Community Engagement Division. And Jerry, if you are online, civil society organization is asking how can civil society organizations engage with the bank at a country level, and if you could provide a clear example. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, okay. I hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Najat, and good morning, colleagues. Yes, we do have several platforms where we engage civil society organizations at a country level. The first point of entry is when a country is developing its country strategy paper. And my colleague Luther did mention a number of countries where we've engaged with civil society organizations in consultations on the priorities that ought to be identified within the development of a new country strategy paper. The consultations also do take place when we are reviewing, when we're having our midterm reviews of the country strategy paper. So what we normally do is when the team, the country team is engaging in consultations with different stakeholders. So the primary stakeholder is always government. So, you know, there'll be consultations with governments, there'll be consultations with private sector, development partners, and now we have the fourth plank, which is the civil society organization. And the discussions that are held during those consultations actually do inform the country strategy paper in terms of sharpening the priority areas, or even in some instances, changing the priority areas that the country team has identified. So those discussions become very, very critical because the strategy paper is a policy document that guides our work at the country level. I saw the same question that came from my friend Elsie from Botswana. We did hold consultations in Botswana, and these consultations become very important, particularly in countries where we do not have an office, a physical office. So we want to strengthen that engagement so that, you know, even when we are not there on the ground, we ensure that the views and the voices of communities are amplified through CSOs. That's one platform. The next platform is when we are holding what we call the CSO Open Days. This is a national platform that brings together different civil society organizations and other stakeholders to basically have open dialogue for us to, as a bank, to share information on what the bank is doing, the overall, you know, portfolio in a particular country, what are the key existing projects, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities. So we engage in an open dialogue with CSOs and even try to identify particular areas where we can strengthen collaboration. The Civil Society Open Day is an annual event, so we hold it once a year in countries, and I would encourage all the CSOs that are participating in this forum to register themselves with us so that when we are holding CSO Open Days in your countries, then we're able to reach out to you and have you participate. Then we also would have, you know, normal dialogue through project design and preparation, when we are having policy dialogue. These are all different opportunities where we engage with CSOs, and we are hoping that now with a dedicated unit within the bank that supports civil society engagement, we will be reaching out to all the countries where we have a presence on the continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and Jerry. The next question is, I'll just ask it in French as we received it in French, so please switch for interpretation. Comment les organisations de la société civile peuvent-elles accéder aux informations sur les projets de la banque et comment peuvent-elles partager des informations provenant des communautés? Alors, il faut savoir que la banque a une politique d'accès à l'information, donc qui permet à tout le public, organisations de la société civile, organisations internationales et autres, d'accéder à l'information via le site web, via différentes plateformes en toute transparence. Maintenant, pour ce qui est de partager des informations provenant des communautés, je vais répondre moi-même parce que je suis en charge de la communication au sein de la division société civile et engagement communautaire. Donc, on a plusieurs outils de communication, mais je vous dirais que la toute première étape, et ça, je l'enverrai via le chat, c'est de s'enregistrer à notre base de données de la société civile pour pouvoir accéder à toutes les informations relatives au travail de la banque en termes d'engagement avec la société civile. Donc, une fois que vous serez enregistré, vous pourrez recevoir, par exemple, notre bulletin d'information qui s'appelle Voix des citoyens en Afrique, que l'on diffuse environ tous les trimestres à plus de 4000 organisations de la société civile. Donc, ce bulletin d'information, c'est réellement une plateforme d'échange entre les organisations de la société civile et la Banque africaine de développement. Elle permet aux organisations de la société civile de partager leur expérience, leurs initiatives, et elle permet aux acteurs de la banque de décrire ce qu'ils font en termes d'engagement avec la société civile. Donc, on a ce bulletin d'information. On a aussi, donc, comme mes collègues en ont parlé, ce qu'on appelle les journées portes ouvertes qui nous permettent de communiquer directement avec la société civile dans un pays spécifique. Donc, lors de ces journées portes ouvertes, la société civile vient, on lui présente les résultats, ce qui va être fait prochainement dans le pays en question, et la société civile, bien évidemment, vient avec ses questions, ses recommandations que l'on pourra ensuite intégrer au document de stratégie du pays en question. Et plus récemment, nous avons mis en fait en place une communauté de blogueurs et d'influenceurs digitaux pour pouvoir communiquer vraiment un maximum sur toutes nos initiatives et que vous puissiez en effet repartager. Donc cette communauté devrait nous permettre d'atteindre un plus grand nombre de personnes. Voilà, merci beaucoup. Je vais prendre la prochaine question. Je vous dis ça tout de suite. Okay, so we have another question, which is how does the African Development Bank Civil Society Committee, especially civil society organizations members, have been selected through a process to facilitate engagement? So there again, I'll ask one of my colleagues to hop in as we are speaking about the Bank Civil Society Committee. Thank you.
Merci Najad. Cette fois-ci, je vais m'exprimer en français. Merci pour cette excellente question. Alors, dans ma présentation, j'ai mentionné que pour faciliter le dialogue et la consultation avec la société civile, la banque a mis en place un certain nombre de mécanismes, parmi lesquels un comité paritaire banque-société civile composé de 11 représentants des organisations de la société civile, dont 5 représentant les différentes régions de l'Afrique, 5 travaillant sur des thématiques spécifiques, notamment le genre, la gouvernance, l'agriculture, le changement climatique et l'environnement, et une organisation internationale qui fait donc que nous avons 11 organisations qui représentent la société civile dans le comité. J'ai dit constitution paritaire parce que nous avons également 11 membres qui représentent la banque et qui font partie de ce comité. Alors, le comité a été mis en place et son modus operandi a été réorganisé. Un premier comité a donc été élu et mis en place en 2018. Ce comité vient d'achever son mandat parce que le mandat du comité est de 2 années renouvelable. Un second comité a donc été mis en place cette année en octobre, comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, et son mandat va courir de 2020 à 2022. Et ce processus de sélection a été fait suivant un mécanisme transparent. Nous avons d'abord lancé des avis d'appel à candidature au mois de février 2020. Nous avons ensuite relancé l'avis d'appel à candidature en avril 2020 pour nous assurer que nous avons des candidatures qui couvrent l'ensemble du continent, qui représentent les différentes thématiques que nous avons identifiées et qui permettent une large et consistante représentation des organisations de la société civile dans ce comité. Nous avons alors mis en place un jury qui a examiné l'ensemble des candidatures et qui a publié de manière officielle sur le site web de la banque et via ce que nous appelons la base de données des organisations de la société civile, une première liste restreinte, donc une short list, une liste restreinte des organisations qui ont postulé au membership de ce comité. Alors, le jury a ensuite procédé à la pesée à l'évaluation des différentes candidatures et à identifier, sélectionner les 11 organisations qui représentent donc la société civile dans ce comité. Depuis hier, la banque a publié officiellement la liste de tous les membres qui représentent la société civile dans ce comité. Vous pouvez donc les consulter sur les sites web de la banque. Et ce que nous allons faire, c'est que le comité a déjà tenu sa première réunion statutaire et a décidé de rentrer en contact avec l'ensemble des organisations sur tout le continent. Chacun des représentants des régions va contacter les organisations de la société civile inscrites dans la base de données. Je vois d'ailleurs une question sur le chat d'une organisation qui demande comment est-ce qu'on peut entrer en contact avec elle dans son pays, notamment le Congo. Alors, pour prendre cet exemple concret, nous avons un représentant de l'Afrique centrale dans ce comité. Il dispose maintenant de la liste de toutes les organisations de l'Afrique centrale qui sont dans la base de données. Il va entrer en contact avec ces organisations. Il va partager avec vous un plan d'action et identifier les actions collaboratives qui peuvent être mises en œuvre, identifier également les mécanismes d'information des organisations de la société civile du Congo et donc de l'Afrique centrale et explorer des perspectives collaboratives à venir. Ça va être la même chose pour les autres représentants des régions. Et au niveau des thématiques, chacun des leaders thématiques va aussi contacter toutes les organisations de la société civile travaillant par exemple dans le domaine de l'agriculture et qui sont enregistrées dans la base de données seront contactées. Toutes celles qui travaillent sur le climat, sur le genre ou la gouvernance seront contactées et le travail se fera pour toucher de manière concrète les populations là où elles résident parce que nous souhaitons avec ce comité faire de sorte que la voix des populations africaines soit entendue, que ces populations soient non seulement consultées, mais qu'elles soient aussi partie prenante parce que très souvent, on monte des projets, on invite les organisations de la société civile à des ateliers de restitution, de validation, mais notre approche est différente. Nous souhaitons impliquer les organisations dès les phases de conception de projets, de mise en œuvre et d'évaluation pour que, dans l'hypothèse de mise en place d'un projet d'assainissement dans un pays, on ait l'assurance qu'on a contacté les personnes qu'on appelle les bénéficiaires, celles qui résident dans la région, celles pour qui le projet est fait, pour qu'elles puissent dire si ce projet leur convient, si le mécanisme de mise en œuvre leur convient. C'est ça, assurer que la voix et la perspective des organisations de la société civile et des populations est prise en compte. Et l'opportunité de ce comité va permettre de renforcer cette prise en compte de la voix des communautés dans les projets et les opérations de la banque. Ce comité a donc tenu sa première réunion statutaire. Il va à nouveau se réunir en début 2020 et partager avec vous son plan d'action après vous avoir consulté. Et cela est important. Ils vont vous envoyer des mails pour vous consulter au niveau des régions, au niveau des thématiques et partager ensuite le plan d'action. Nous souhaitons donc une fois de plus la bienvenue à ce comité et vous pouvez une fois de plus consulter leur liste sur le site web de la banque. Merci, Najad.
Merci beaucoup, Luther. Il y a une excellente participation. Alors, on a reçu une autre question qui est de savoir comment la banque va renforcer sa collaboration avec la société civile dans les années à venir. Donc, je vais demander à notre manager de la division société civile et engagement communautaire, Zeynep Touré, d'y répondre. Merci beaucoup.
Bonjour, merci. Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour tous les participants. On est vraiment très ravis d'avoir cette participation depuis 8h30 du matin. Nous sommes sûrs que ça va aller en s'accroissant durant toute la journée, puisque vous savez qu'après cette session, c'est une session que vous, société civile, allez animer. Et donc, ça, c'est une des premières réponses à cette question très, très pertinente qui dit que comment, de plus en plus, nous allons donner beaucoup plus d'espace à la société civile pour qu'elle-même, elle soit aussi présente lors des forums, mais aussi sur le terrain. Et donc, par rapport à cela, la première chose que je vais dire, c'est que déjà, on a eu la feuille de route avec le président. Comme vous l'avez tous constaté, le président de la Banque africaine de développement a été la personne qui a ouvert le forum de la société civile cette année. Et ça montre la trajectoire sur laquelle nous sommes en train d'avancer. Nous sommes en train vraiment de renforcer cette collaboration avec la société civile pour faire d'elle un acteur, une actrice importante dans la mise en œuvre des I5. Et comme le président l'a dit, nous allons passer de la rhétorique des discussions, nous allons passer des consultations à l'action. La consultation en amont, mais l'action après. Et sur cela, nous allons travailler sur la feuille de route que le président nous a donnée. Nous allons vous proposer un plan de travail d'ici le début de l'année prochaine pour vous montrer sur quoi nous sommes en train d'aller. Du reste, ça sera l'objet de la session de la clôture. Avant la clôture, nous allons parler des recommandations, mais aussi des next steps. La première priorité qui est ressortie de ce que le président a dit déjà, c'est le renforcement des capacités et aussi que la société civile soit actrice de la mise en œuvre des opérations et que la société civile soit sur le terrain dans les projets de la banque, mais aussi que la société civile elle-même mette en œuvre des projets et répondre aux priorités aussi de la banque. Nous allons alors renforcer ce volet action sur le terrain et les bureaux pays, une des questions, c'était comment travailler avec les bureaux pays. Et les bureaux pays, la société civile dans les pays sera fortement impliquée dans nos opérations. Donc ça, c'est un peu grosso modo ce que je peux vous dire dès maintenant, en attendant qu'on compile un peu toutes les recommandations que nous avons pour sortir avec des éléments très clairs à la fin de ce forum sur comment la banque va renforcer. Bien sûr, ça c'est au niveau de notre coordination ici, mais la banque, à travers les différents départements de la banque, vont renforcer anti-corruption. Comme on l'a dit, le département anti-corruption sera un pilier important du point d'entrée de la collaboration avec la banque, puisqu'elle va engager la société civile pour mieux mettre en place des mécanismes de redevabilité et de transparence pour que les projets de la banque soient mis en œuvre de façon efficiente et réduire les risques d'échec et les risques voilà, dans les corruptions dans les projets, mais aussi que mettre en place les systèmes qui font qu'en amont, les questions environnementales et sociales soient mieux traitées avec l'implication de la société civile. Et ça, le département des safeguards, le département en charge des questions environnementales et sociales, sera un des départements clés aussi de la collaboration avec la société civile dans les prochaines années. Bien sûr, avec notre partenaire traditionnel qui reçoit les plaintes, parce que nous allons améliorer la qualité à l'entrée, Najat l'a dit, de nos opérations, mais nous allons être aussi à l'écoute des populations quand nous estiment être lésées par rapport à ce que nous faisons sur le terrain. Nous voulons faire du développement, nous trouverons aussi apporter des difficultés à des populations dans notre volonté de travailler sur le terrain. Et ça, nous avons des mesures collectives que le département ARM, sur lesquelles le département ARM est en train de travailler et qui va renforcer sa collaboration avec la société civile dans ce sens. Donc, Najat, ce que je peux dire pour le moment, c'est ça. Et puis, en attendant que nous arrivons avec des éléments plus concrets dans les heures à venir. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Merci Zéneb. Alors, il y a juste une question qui est de savoir si toutes les organisations de la société civile qui prennent part à ce forum seront enregistrées dans notre base de données. Je vais y répondre directement. Il y a un certain nombre de critères auxquels il faut répondre et un certain nombre de documents à fournir, bien évidemment. C'est la raison pour laquelle je vous envoie les adresses de mes collègues qui sont en charge de cette base de données et ils vous enverront toutes les informations dont vous avez besoin. Si nous recevons tous les documents et que vous répondez à tous les critères, bien évidemment, nous allons vous inscrire dans notre base de données. Comme je l'ai dit, on pourra partager avec vous toutes les initiatives, les opportunités, les projets, etc. Je souhaiterais juste ajouter qu'il y a un certain nombre de questions très, très spécifiques qui sont vraiment destinées au département. Donc, ce qu'on va faire, c'est qu'on va prendre ces questions et qu'on les transférera au département concerné et qu'on pourra vous envoyer les réponses. Voilà. Je ne vois pas d'autres questions pour le moment. Alors, très bien. Nous avons une question, visiblement. En attendant, je vais demander à nos panélistes, alors est-ce que M. Bambara ou est-ce que Mme Freda Denis aimerait rajouter quelque chose de particulier par rapport aux questions même qui ont été posées?
Oui, en fait, je voulais également préciser que les organisations de la société civile sont invités à participer à la 3e revue du mécanisme indépendant d'inspection, c'est-à-dire le MI, donc que je viens de décrire tout à l'heure. Et il y a un processus en cours qui est de passer en revue le mécanisme et de s'assurer qu'il est toujours indépendant, qu'il est en phase avec les réalités actuelles. Et qu'il est toujours efficace, qu'il répond aux besoins de la société civile. Et donc, il y a une série d'informations qui a été soumise à l'appréciation des organisations de la société civile. Et Cela a été fait jusqu'au 2 novembre dernier, mais nous allons encore passer à une seconde phase de consultation publique sur le mécanisme et nous voudrions profiter de l'occasion pour inviter les organisations de la société civile qui n'ont pas pu se prononcer sur cette revue lors de la première consultation publique à le faire quand la seconde consultation publique sera lancée probablement en début du mois de janvier 2021. Merci.
Can I come in here?
Yes, of course, please do. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I think I wanted also to contribute in terms of the capacity building. We know sometimes civil society gets a little bit frustrated that we focus too much in that area. But in our work, one of the areas that we have realized is understanding the policies of the bank related to investigations, debarment, and cross-debarment. And we would be having sessions in the coming year as we do, because it helps to facilitate work in our regional member countries. Sometimes we have realized that complaints tends without adequate support and application to the rules tend to delay procurement processes. So it's an area that we would be focusing on. So, and also, I should say that in terms of capacity building, it's a two-way affair with civil society. Just yesterday, we had an engagement with a civil society group who are in the Francophone countries. They've developed training on ethics and compliance and for the business sector. And we have proposed that it would be useful to review those training and on ethics and compliance so that we do refer individuals and small businesses who are debarred by the bank to take on those online training programs. What I'm saying here is that some of you also are doing very well, are developing very good resources in so many areas that the bank is focusing on. And some of these resources might be also useful. So you also need to engage us so that it is not only we transferring capacity to you, but sometimes there are cases that you, through us, you can also help in promoting capacity building in our regional member countries. And I want to encourage civil society to be doing that because wisdom is not only in the bank, it also lies a lot among our civil society members who are on the ground, who are doing a lot of it. They are developing a lot of resources and doing a lot of research, which will be useful for the bank's work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another question I see in the chat is how can civil society organizations get in touch or liaise with the country office in question? So this person is speaking about Guinea in particular. I'll let my colleague who is in charge of West Africa respond to this question. Thank you.
Merci Najad, merci également à celui qui a posé la question. Oui, vous pouvez contacter la banque. Oui, nous sommes accessibles. Oui, la société civile est une partie prenante importante de la banque. Déjà, si vous êtes enregistré dans la base de données de la société civile, vous êtes déjà en contact avec la banque. Si vous n'êtes pas encore enregistré, vous pouvez nous contacter pour être enregistré dans la base de données. Déjà, nous allons le faire pour les organisations qui participent à ce forum, comme ma collègue Najad l'a dit. Nous avons la liste de toutes les personnes qui sont ici connectées avec les adresses que vous avez fournies. Donc, nous allons systématiquement vous enregistrer. Nous avons aussi des bureaux pays dans certains pays sur le continent et vous pouvez donc également entrer en contact avec ces bureaux pays pour des informations ou écrire également à ces bureaux pays si vous souhaitez des informations sur les projets qui sont mis en œuvre. Mais de manière plus prosaïque, envoyez-nous un mail ou bien, comme je l'ai dit, via la base de données que nous avons, qui est vraiment l'interface qui va bientôt, comme je l'ai annoncé également, devenir une plateforme interactive sur laquelle nous pourrons interagir au quotidien, partager les différentes préoccupations et également servi de lien et de repère pour vous mettre en relation avec les départements de la banque. Si vous êtes une organisation dédiée à l'éducation, nous pourrons vous mettre en contact avec le département de la banque qui travaille sur l'éducation. Si vous travaillez sur le genre, nous vous mettrons en contact avec nos collègues qui travaillent sur le genre. Nous sommes donc et nous restons la principale point d'entrée à la banque pour les organisations de la société civile. Merci Najat.
Merci beaucoup, Luther. And Jerry Kinyo, I hope you are online. There's one question for you because it's on Zambia. What are the next steps in terms of civil society engagement with Zambian civil society? Thank you very much.
Is that question for me?
Yes, this is a question for you, Jerry. I'll repeat it. The next steps in Zambia in terms of civil society engagement.
Okay, let me first of all say that I'm in charge of civil society engagement for Southern Africa and Eastern Africa. We already have had initial consultations with civil society organizations in Zambia when the Zambia team was reviewing its country strategy paper. We struggled a little bit trying to get the contacts that we needed for some of the CSOs. And so my appeal to colleagues who are attending this forum is to kindly register yourselves so that we have a broader number of CSOs operating in Zambia. We will definitely be planning to have more engagements next year, including a CSO open day. So kindly let us have your contact so that when that time comes, then we will be alerting all of you and having you mobilize and participate in the event. And the same question was kind of raised by I think somebody from Uganda, and it's the same for Uganda. So let us have your contacts. Definitely, once we have your contacts on our database, you will not miss any of the events that we're planning in your respective countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jerry. And I just sent once again for you to see the person, Edward and Sobe, you should contact to register in the bank's database. I think we have answered all the questions. As I said, some were very specific and for departments. So we'll make sure these departments receive the questions. Do not hesitate to send us your email addresses. Mr. Bombara and Mrs. Florence, Dennis Freda, do not hesitate if there's one last thing.
Thank you, Najat. I just want to take the opportunity again to let the civil society organization present in this meeting know that they can contact the IRM or the bank's country offices, the PIAC offices, whenever there is a need to help communities send a request or a complaint to the IRM. So we are willing to support, to work with them in handling requests from communities or from the civil society organizations themselves. So I have written down my email, the email address of the IRM, so that if there is a need, they can just contact us or go directly to the bank's country offices and also file a complaint or get more information about IRM's work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Dennis Freda? Thank you.
Okay, just to reiterate what my colleague has said, what Zeynep said, I think the bank has evolved over the last few years with its commitment to civil society by enhancing a unit to a division which is now vibrantly well-resourced and working well. From our side, we recognize the enormous sort of contribution the civil society continue to do in ensuring that transparency and accountability are held on our projects on the continent, and are going to continue to engage them very well in the coming years. They should not hesitate to contact us, as has been said. If you go on our website, you type Office of Integrity and Anti-Corruption, you can have a complaints form, you should fill it. And we are very, very grateful for the number of complaints and whistleblowing that we have received that has led to the bank's effective work on anti-corruption. We owe it a lot to civil society and community-based organizations who have kept us on our feet and have allowed us to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This session is already coming to an end, and I would like to thank our 3 speakers for kickstarting this second day. Yes?
Yeah, sorry, Najat. There's a very pertinent question that's been asked by Nancy Sitima. If you could kindly check it on the Q&A, and she would like for us to give an answer.
Okay, no worries. I'll check this. Okay, could you kindly read it, and Jerry, if you have it, so that we can thank you.
So Nancy is asking, what is the capacity threshold required for being a member of the civil society engagement with the bank? I think the first answer to that is kindly send us your contacts. I have given you my email address, and we'll send you the link to register. And she says, I ask this because for a long time, we've witnessed elite capture of project financing, not only by national, international CSOs to the detriment of grassroots CSOs. The domination of deliberative processes by more powerful, articulate CSOs do not promote inclusive development and is detrimental to voices in local communities. What mechanisms are in place to ensure the grassroots groups are included as integral parts of the bank's interventions?
Okay, thank you very much. And Jerry? Thank you. Luther would like to add something.
Okay, Luther, go for it.
Okay, thank you very much, Jerry. As Najat mentioned, we have also collected all the questions, and unfortunately, some of the participants have directed their questions to the chat instead of the Q&A. So we will have an inventory of all these questions, and we will address them. But for the one who asked this, yes, we do have criteria for selecting CSOs or for CSOs with whom we are working. The first is the legal framework, the institutional framework in the country, the ecosystem, but we are making sure that relevant CSOs recognized in their countries, recognized in their region, renowned in the operational sector they are operating in, are welcome. And mostly, we are talking about the populations in Africa. We are talking about citizens in Africa. And civil society organizations are just playing the role of interface. The civil society organizations are the voices of these hard-to-reach populations. So we are working with all of them. I've mentioned in the beginning that social movement, youth organizations, women organizations are welcome as partners in this journey towards building a people-centered bank. Finally, yes, evidence shows that engaging with civil society in development project leads to inclusive development and better livelihood outcomes. And this will exclusively be done and succeed with civil society at the heart of this engagement. So we will take all the questions we have not been able to answer here via emails with dedicated civil society officers at the bank, and we'll address them and also direct them to other colleagues if it's about sectoral or cross-cutting issues. So thank you. You are welcome to continue this dialogue with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luther.
Maybe, Najat?
Yes?
Just to add concerning the database, some are already sending their email addresses on the chat that they should be registered on the database. Our appeal is that you already shared our email contacts. Please send a mail and we'll provide you the details for registration on the database. And thank you, colleagues, for bringing up the database, which I somehow omitted when I was answering the question on capacity building. Please take note that building capacity will entail knowing who is concerned. And as Luther has said, the database is the tool that will permit us to identify partners, credible civil society organizations across the continent that will partner with the bank. And partnering with the bank, as we said earlier, requires building capacity. So we'll build capacity based on the partners that we'll identify, and we'll identify these partners through our database. So ensure that you are registered on the database. Merci beaucoup. Je disais tout à l'heure que certains envoient déjà des chats, n'est-ce pas, de leur adresse email dans le chat. Ce n'est pas sur la base des adresses email que nous allons enregistrer les organisations de la société civile. Nous vous prions, vous avez déjà nos coordonnées, les adresses mail des personnes concernées par la base des données. Envoyez un mail et nous allons vous contacter. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Edward. Vraiment, merci à tous. Je vais reprendre en anglais. Donc, I was saying that this session is coming to an end, and I'd like to sincerely thank our 3 speakers for kickstarting the second day of our Civil Society Forum with these presentations and exchanges that provided considerable information. As I said, the other questions will be redirected to specific departments. I would like to thank all the participants on behalf of the bank who took part in this session and contributed to this fruitful dialogue. Kindly note that civil society organizations-led sessions are starting at 10:15, and you can follow them. I'm going to send the link in the chat and in the questions and answers windows, so that you can access one of the sessions. There are 4 sessions and you must pick one, please. And I wish you all a great day. Thank you very much.
Merci.
Merci à vous. I sent all the links for the civil society led sessions. Please do not hesitate. Copy and paste them in a document so that you have them all even when the session is closed. Thank you.